So Mike Richards and I have known each other for a fair old while, and he's a business owner in the executive search world, the founder of the Treasury Recruitment Company, and just somebody who for a long time has leveraged social media very effectively. He's a keen podcaster himself with 180 episodes under his belt. But he's also somebody that believes that building business is all about doing the right thing, about having honesty and integrity, and about leading with the heart. And I think that set him up for success. And as they say, success leaves clues. So we invited Mike on this week to give some advice out to job seekers, particularly some of the tips he included in his now really well-renowned Bounceback campaign, and also to talk about business ownership and any advice to people who might be able to set up their own business and look to scale as Mike has. So without further ado, here's Mike Richards on the Executive Career Jump podcast. Let's get to work.
You're listening to the Career Jump podcast. Insights, interviews, and success stories to inspire and give you the edge when you make your next career jump. Hosted by your career concierge, Andrew MacAskill.
Hello, welcome back to the Executive Career Jump podcast. I'm your host and career concierge, Andrew MacAskill. Very excited today to be joined by my good friend and fellow podcaster, Mike Richards. How you doing, Mike?
Very well, thank you, Andrew. I was just saying it's a bit weird. I've done 181 of these things and being on the other side, and I keep thinking when you're going to ask me questions, no, I ask the questions. Shut up and listen. Like, oh, it's the other way around. It's a bit scary.
Yeah, we're turning the tables for sure. And I'm glad that we're doing so because I know you've got a lot of business experience. You're an expert in financial services. You know a thing or two about executive search and recruitment and careers as well. So on behalf of the audience, I'm going to rack your brains for the next 30 minutes. But just to frame it a little bit for us, Mike, tell the audience that, you know, those that might not know you, a little bit more about you, your journey and the type of work you get involved with.
So I'm a specialist treasury recruiter. That's put most of your audience into a semi-comatose state already. They're like, oh, really? Treasury? What's that? Is that for the government? No, it's finance. Within finance, you'll tend to have three streams. You've got your financial control, tax, and then you've got treasury. The fun guys, the guys that look to the future for finances and money. I've been in treasury recruitment for 20 odd years. Originally started way back when, did a teaching degree, a natural step obviously into recruitment, as you can imagine. Did the teaching degree, went into teaching recruitment, and then someone said you should do finance recruitment. I was like, not sure. Accountants, really? And they went, they pay you twice as much. I went, where do I sit? I said, where's my desk? And then luckily, I discovered the world of treasury. Again, I was slightly nervous by it, but met these treasury guys and said, what's good about them? Discovered very quickly they were the first to the bar, usually the last to leave it. I thought I found my beautiful people. And that was me 20 odd years ago for a number of companies, enjoying, then moved on to search, Hydrogen Struggles, and they were saying, oh, do other things. So I went, no, treasury is my niche. And I heard, I was saying earlier, a great podcast you did with Thomas Dove recently about his niche, and know Tom as well. But my niche was treasury. And we do it on a global basis. Inch wide, mile deep. We do it across the US. We do it throughout the UK. We do it internationally across Europe. Those are our main markets. And we recruit from treasury assistant, 20 odd grand, sort of type, starting their careers through to global treasurers. So that's what I do.
Love it. And how do you get on with the time differences? Because I know you've got global coverage. So how do you manage? Do you sleep?
No, look like this. That's how I look. That's basically, yeah. I mean, Europe is relatively easy. UK, I try and stay awake most of the day during the UK. And we do a lot of our work in the US is mainly East Coast and Midwest. I do a lot of stuff in Chicago, Atlanta, throughout the US. We do some West Coast stuff, but again, it's more as a global search. And actually, when I'm doing the work with those guys, it tends to be, be end of the night for me and early morning for them. So we just have to be careful with some of the assignments. We go to right the way across for Nike, for instance, right on the West Coast. But most of the stuff actually isn't bad. We also have a couple of guys in the US, and we're actually expanding that practice as well.
Brilliant. Absolutely love it. And I find the fact that you found this niche treasury really interesting, right? Because there's a lot of people right now going, I want to work out what my purpose is. I want to work out what my mission is. And actually, I think you just got to keep running experiments until you find something that kind of works for you, right? Because there's no way when you were doing that teacher qualification that you would have strategically said, I'm going to end up running a renowned treasury recruitment company. So what was it about that space, do you think, that grabbed you, other than the fact they were the last at the bar, which was one part of it? Was there anything else? Like, why do you think it captured you in the way that it has?
Well, that probably swung the deal, the last at the bar and the first to get there. So that was a definite influence. But that aside, and joking aside, when I did teaching and was enjoying that, and then they said, come into teaching recruitment. And I was like, oh, actually recruitment. And all I discovered, I was talking to people, again, listening to some of your other podcasts, and I was listening to their needs, and you were sort of matching up with what they wanted. And it wasn't about the money at that stage. And it still hasn't been, even in finance recruitment, it was about helping them. And that's why I'm so, love helping what you guys have done. Throughout pandemic, it was a great time to do it and really help people. And we did a Bounceback program to help people. And people are like, you're a financial recruiter, why are you doing this? I went, because I want to help people. And then it's like paying it forward, and that's a big thing for us. So going back to that recruitment wise, then it was financial recruitment. I didn't know a thing about it, but I quite quickly discovered it was still just talking to people. And they don't then say, the guys in the office who work with me, they sort of say, oh, do I need to know about cash management? Do I need to know about FX? I went, it helps, but it's not the thing. I said, you don't sit down with one of the clients or candidates and they say, oh, I don't like it because we don't use this cash system. No, they go, I don't know my boss, or my work-life balance isn't there. And we'll come back to hybrid later. And, it's all those other factors. And I thought talking to people, like talking to yourself and having a beer with you and a drink and just talk about life is just bloody brilliant. And that's what I love doing. And, talking to my clients in that way, really.
Yeah, no, exactly. We get paid for it. We get paid for it.
Who would have believed it?
Magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. So you mentioned your Bounceback program there. That was on the list to ask you about today, because I thought it was fantastic. So tell the listeners a little bit more about your Bounceback program and what was involved with it.
So this weird thing called COVID came along, and just basically stopped in recruitment terms. And actually, having been through 2 recessions before, I know I don't look old enough, but I am. In particular, like with Lehman's, for instance, as well. And I actually had this on a podcast a couple of days ago where Lehman's came along. I looked at my ex-business partner at the time. I said, so what we do? And he just went, pub? Yeah, that's it. And it was I know there's a theme, but it was more that we went, well, we can't move the market. We've been through this. We've just got to keep our heads down, put our heads together as we did, and got through it. And then COVID came along. There were 2 things, actually. One thing, I was working with a very big client, Sabic, in Saudi Arabia, doing some big recruitment for them. And I thought, that's it. They're going to stop everything. I was very lucky because they said, actually, we can see this as a global crisis. Yeah. And I was like, okay. And they said, we're not going to stop things. Oh, why? I said, well, it's going to take us 3 months minimum to find someone, 6 months for them to do their notice because they're a very senior person, global treasurer role. So keep going, please. And I was like, oh, crumbs. And keep going with the other campaigns. Yeah. And we had a few other clients like that as well. So we were keeping busy, but my candidates were coming to me going, help. The market's not moving. What do I do? And I sat down with the team and I said, guys, let's just help everyone. And it was, okay, how do we do that? Let's come up with a program which we can, and actually make it proper. Now, Katie, who works with me, she's ex-HR, senior HR person. She worked for companies like Hotel Chocolat, knows her stuff, very good at the sort of the people aspects of things. I've got the sales bit and the LinkedIn stuff, and we'll talk about that. And so we just put it together and structured it out 6 weeks. First week was about sort of sitting back. What do you want? Defining your purpose a little bit. Then we went into resume, CV advice for a lot of our clients, LinkedIn. Then it was about virtual interviewing. Then it was a goal setting. The final bit was also about, which recruiters to work with. I know you do that loads on the podcast, but it was also about saying to them, it wasn't just, work with the competition. It was more, what do you need? What do you want? We don't do very much work with banks. We do some stuff, but predominantly 95% of our stuff is corporate treasury. So working with the corporates. And it was then sitting down with our audience, and it was open to everyone, and it was free. People were saying to me, oh, you should charge for this. I said, that's not why we did it. We did it just to help to get people back on their feet again, which is why you and I share an ethos about that. Just, if you pay it forward, if you do that, you're going to get the money back, and that's a key thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So in terms of getting tactical then, give us a tip on CVs, a tip on LinkedIn, and a tip on interviews for anybody who's in transition who's listening.
Tip on CVs, it's a paracetamol. And when you're doing this, and I do this all the time, it's think about the other person's headache. You're wanting, say, I wanted to get a job with you, you're recruiting, you've got a job description, you sent it out to me. You can quite pretty easily see some of the responsibilities, but it's very difficult, isn't it, to go onto Google, look at that company, see where they are in their journey and what their big problems would be. Practical example. So one of my US guys, as part of that program, actually, he said, Mike, I've got to show the Labour Office that I'm applying for all these jobs, senior treasurer and everything else. I'm like, wow, okay. And he said, I've applied for 110 jobs. I'm like, of course you have. He went, sent me the spreadsheet. And I was like, oh my God, you've applied for 110 jobs. Are you mad? Like, it just was crumbs. And basically I sat down with him and I said, right, stop this. You spray and pray, scattergun approach. Let's look at this one or two companies. We identified actually a company out there. There was a personal healthcare services, had some pharmaceutical in there and stuff. He had that in his background. But I said, look, what are their pain points? They've just lost their treasurer. Why hasn't their number two stepped up? I said, look at him. He's got this background. You've got this, this, this. So put this on your resume. And he didn't. He had the usual BS on it. It was like passionate, motivated, which should go in the bin. Yeah, we're all passionate and motivated. Or a really boring, unmotivated individual. Like, throw it away. That's just wrong. Shouldn't be on there. What we should have on there is directly relevant paracetamol. I say, get rid of their headaches. Sit in their seat, say, you're the CFO recruiting. Oh God, I just want a treasurer that can run our cash management, that can run this team of 12 people globally. I've never done that. And they know treasury inside out. Right, put it down there. Tell them where he done this. And we did this. He didn't actually get the job, but he got from the spray and pray, he got to final round interview, just lost out against one person. He got another job within about 2 months later. And I was just through and he said, yeah, I just used all your advice. And that was it. So that's the CV stuff. LinkedIn is not a CV resume. I see you posting about this. Watch it. I'm watching you, Andrew. Will it die out? No, it won't. Well, CVs will still be, because they're a chronology, I don't know, a list of all the stuff you've done and why you've got to where you are. Whereas LinkedIn is a sales page for brand you. And both you and I do lectures, and I've been around the world telling people, I just did one this week about LinkedIn, and it's a constant sales page for you. Now, some people don't have a photo on it. You're 21 times more likely to get, and I then have my, horrible rogues gallery, which is me drinking a beer and stuff. And I'm going, I've seen those on some of my clients, profiles. I'm like, chuck it in the bin now. It's like, stop. That's on Facebook. Don't do that. Basically, it's the best presentation of you. And again, get yourself sitting in a client's, space and say, oh, that's someone I want to come and work for my team, or I want to talk to them. That's the key thing.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. I love CV as a paracetamol. That's your LinkedIn post sorted for this afternoon.
Oh, no, I've done it a few times as well. And the other one, I think, going back to the market, we've got to rewrite this, is actually many years ago, actually prior to Lehman. So it's going to repeat this one. It's not about you anymore. It's about them. And so many of my clients, when they're trying to recruit, I often say to them, you need to focus on what they want as a candidate, and try and, as we move into a candidate, driven market, that's one of the key things you need to look at.
Yeah, well, if both parties take that approach, then we'll have a win on our hands, that's for sure. And so an interview tip as well. What's the Mike Richards interview tip for this podcast?
I would say rehearsal. I think it's very underestimated. When I was saying to Andrew before, I was a little bit nervous about doing this because, not a rehearsal, but it's also just prepare yourself, your research and all those things that come with it. I was just listening to a pre-podcast with you. What am I going to expect on this? Well, you guys can do exactly the same. You're going to go for an interview. What questions are they going to ask you? And then I'm not. No, don't not be sure. If you were going to interview you, what would you do? You're walking in, I've put on this morning, smart shirt, okay, it's relaxed casual, but this is what you would expect on this. Think it through. There are so many people that are just ill prepared, and preparation doesn't take that long. It's what is that person sitting on the other side of the table going to be asking you about? What are their headaches? What are the things, make yourself the solution to it. And, I think when you're doing that, it's always putting yourself in their shoes. Again, in the prep notes for this podcast, one of the things was you asked about the books that we've read. and things. And mine was Stephen Covey's 7 Habits. Now, one of the key things I've read that right back at the beginning of my career, and it was always about putting yourself in their shoes and walking, steps in their shoes and all this stuff, and putting yourself in their mindset. That's the key thing, I think, that so many people get wrong, because they're new to recruitment. It might be the first time they're looking for a job in 5-10 years, but it doesn't take that long to think, oh, if I was recruiting me, what would I do?
Yeah, I love that. And I think a lot of finance execs tend to be quite good at researching the numbers. So most of them will do a company's house print off and that sort of stuff and go into the annual report. But what they don't do is research the person they're going to meet to anything like the level that they could. So, for example, if they're going through a shortlisting exercise with Treasury Recruitment and they know they're going to be meeting Mike, I mean, all they've got to do is type your name into YouTube, type your name into Google. They'll find videos, podcasts, articles. There's loads about most leaders out there now. And you can learn so much. Like, even if somebody listened to this podcast before they met you to potentially go on one of your shortlists, that's going to be a great bit of research for them, isn't it?
Yeah, and similarly with yourself. I mean, to push it back to what you guys do, if someone's going to want to engage with yourselves as a group, executive career job, I did that myself this morning. I was looking at some of the YouTube videos you guys have got, and I'm thinking, right, how do I want to present myself here? And I just showed Andrew a minute ago that that you think this is an amazing studio in a very nice. It's not. It's a shed, and people are like, oh, okay. I said, but you see this, you see the lovely backdrop here, you've got us, we've got a nice bit of branding. How long did that take me? Click, click, backdrop. And again, even you guys can do this. Have a virtual backdrop the number of times. I've started to talk about real and virtual interviewing, and that's one of the, that was one of the elements that we did back before. And I've actually done 2 or 3 sessions about it before, and I've actually looked at people round in the squares, and I've said, guys, I can see a few of you and you need to do your ironing. And there's 3 people going, oh, hang on, like moving off. And you're like, what? It's just like, I mean, you've got a beautiful background there, even with the Nora Award. Very well done, sir.
Thank you. No, appreciate that.
But, joking aside, that's what it's about. It's like, you see this bit, obviously the moneymaker, but behind that, you've got, oh, this looks good. Yeah, think about it. Just think, 180 degrees.
It's all part of the branding. This wallpaper has definitely become part of our branding, all the lives that we do and everything I do at that dining room table. But no, I think that's really, the details matter, I think is what I'm hearing there. And I think you're bang on with that, mate. Most dubious segue ever. Hey, everybody. Sorry to interrupt the podcast, but I wanted to tell you very quickly about how Executive Career Jump can help end your career misery. So when you hit our website, there's 3 different ways that our digital resources can help you. For a start, if you're looking to jump in to a new role, we've got the premier online job search course that you're going to find anywhere. There's a number of different memberships to help you understand what you want and how to go and get it in this current environment. So we're here to help you if you want a new career. We've also got a section if you want to jump up in your career. And so this is all about our online leadership hub, which is a platform full of content, includes 2 meetups per quarter and a whole thriving community of leaders trying to become the best leaders they can be. Go and check that out too. And the third area in our website and the other digital course that might help you is our Business Launcher course. So we've created the Business Launcher program that we wish we had when we were setting up on their own. So if you've decided to jump off of the employment stream and start up on your own, make sure you head over and check that out too. You can find all of these resources, a bunch of free content, links to previous podcasts and more at execcareerjump.com. That's EXEC careerjump.com. Now, back to the pod. Talking of paracetamol, what have you found as the main headaches when running your own business?
Oh, God. Paying the wages.
Yeah.
They go cash flow. And just, we're having a good run of things. The market's getting back to normal. Yeah, it's great. It's great. I'm sitting down with my junior guys and they're going, oh, this is great. I said, yeah, but we can pay you that once we get paid. And then, oh, right, they're on 3 months notice. Then we're on 60-day payment terms. And they're like, right, I said, I'm going to give you the money next summer. And they're like, what? I was like, well, you get paid when we get paid. And then like, oh, crumbs. So I think actually, I used to have this, really trite, what are the 3 tips you would give to people being an entrepreneur? I said, number 1, look after the cash. Blah, blah, blah. Don't spend it or look after, give yourself some security. Number 2, don't go crazy as we did in the past and spend the cash and go to conferences that you don't need to. After doing that in the halcyon days when we did loads and loads. Hey, Miami, here we go. Won't do that again. Miami, lovely place, but too expensive. Number 3 was look at number 1 and 2. And yeah, it was a bit, corny, but actually that's one of the things I would take away. And I think actually by focusing on that gives you a security of the company. I think, you've got the usual stuff, focus on the relationships with your clients and your candidates and all that stuff. But it's more as a business owner, I think with that, it's just, you've got to just think about that all the time. And it's that's going to give you guys security.
And did you always want to be a business owner?
No, totally. It was more accidental. I mean, my 16-year-old daughter a few years ago was having some challenges at school, and she just said, I told the teacher, and this is what, but you don't like being told what to do, Dad. That's why you run your own business. I went, no, that's not why I run my own business. I said, because my clients tell me what to do or what they want all day long, and my candidates do the same. I said, but what I do like is having control over this and actually, giving back. We do a salary survey. We do the podcast. We do all these other things that aren't just, yes, they're content marketing and things, but I do them because I love them. I just did a session did 2 sessions yesterday. One to Stockholm. That's right. International. Okay, it was virtual. Wanted to go there. Rushed back straight for this. And then in the evening, I presented to the New York Association of Treasurers. And one was about, personal branding, what people should be doing and everything else. And then 4 hours later, I was presenting about our latest salary survey and giving back loads of information. And people are like, it's all given. No, the great bit is that if we know that stuff inherently, then clients come to us and go, well, how much should I be paying? I said, okay, you're paying 30% less than the market. Well, what tells you that? 150 other treasurers. Like, oh, okay. And it makes us powerful because we are knowledgeable about our market. And I think that then, over our rivals makes us stand out. And that's what it's about for me. It's about giving back, but giving back with a qualitative approach.
And having the freedom to be able to do that, right? Because you're not having to put in a business. If you were a director of a large organization with teams and a budget, you'd have to put in a business case to spend 300, 400, 500 quid on something.
Let's go thousands. I mean, this costs us thousands. But the thing is, I know that what we get back is insane. It's just the relationships. We've got 550 people now taking part in the survey. It's going to be 1,000. That's my next aim, to get it to 1,000. And then I said to Joe, who works with me, he's a great guy. I said to him 2 things. I said, firstly, if you walk into that client and you say, well, we've got a salary survey. Oh yeah, I've seen those. And no, it's a real salary. Okay. And how many you got? 1,000 people that are, whoa, hang on. That's something. I mean, 550 is pretty amazing. And then the flip side of it, going back to your point there, Andrew, was he is a junior consultant. I said, look, if you were working at some of our rivals, I won't mention them, but I said, what is happening to you as a junior consultant? He said, well, I said, no, you're sitting in there. What are they doing? They're saying, chase that job, chase that job. I said, is that the best way for your candidate-led junior market? And he was like, well, no, probably. I said, what should you be doing? I said, talk to candidates. I said, talk to a candidate in the morning, talk to one in the afternoon. You've done 2 a day. Yeah, brilliant. I said, end of the week, 10. End of a month, 40. And so you go to a client in a month's time and you've spoken to 40 treasury analysts. You went, oh yeah. I said, and you've repeated it. And you've repeated it. I said, end of a quarter, you walked in and they said, oh, how many treasury analysts do you know? I know 120. And I'm like, what? I said, and I'm empowering you to do that. I said, I'm paying for that. But I said, but when you go there, it's such an irresistible proposition. That's what I would want from my consultant. I said, that I'm giving you that springboard. Rather than saying, where are your jobs, Joe? Where are your jobs? That's so short-sighted. It's just, and again, I keep saying this, that sounds very altruistic. It's not meant in that way. It's meant in a really commercial way. If you do it right, then it all comes back.
Well, the idea that you can't be altruistic and commercial is outdated anyway, right? Like those 2 things are far from mutually exclusive, as I think we're proving. Yeah. But what I was hitting on as well is that whilst you're never entirely free, and as per the conversation with your daughter, oh, dad, you just don't like being told what to do. And I'm sure there is some truth in that with all of us who run our own businesses. But it's also the fact that the only person you have to justify your expenditure to is yourself and your values, rather than some corporate sign-off procedure. And so I think there's loads of really tough things about running a business. Like you said, cash flow is a constant headache and everything else that comes with it. But overriding benefit is being able to make a decision that might not even make sense to everybody else, but you get to make that decision because it's yours and you earned the right to make that decision. I think that's amazing.
I think there's that. And again, you sort of, on the briefing notes, you said, what do you stand for and things like that. And, I boiled it down back when I did Covey's work and, you write down your value statements and everything else. And recently did this. I'm doing an executive program myself as well to get me better. And mine came down to honesty and integrity. Years ago, there were lots of pressures. You were there back in the 90s and, turn of the century when, maybe you weren't quite there, but, he's a few years younger than me, so it's all right. But the main thing was, I remember my boss at the time telling me to tell a mate to take this job. And I told him on the phone, I said, look, can I take your mobile number? And he was like, I don't use my mobile. I said, just switch it on. And I'll come back tonight. I said, yeah, go for it. There was massive amount of pressures and people can probably see that on my LinkedIn profile, so I won't name and shame them. But the fact was I walked outside and said, mate, don't take the job. He's like, what? I said, I know things, don't take the job. And he was like, oh, right. Within a month, and he was just going through a mortgage and everything else. And he called me and we're still friends to this day. And he said, I do remember that call. And he said, it was a big pay rise, big everything else. He was just going through a mortgage. It would have destroyed a big part of his life and all the trust and everything else, and we lost a load of money, or didn't make a big fee. But, and I say that to the guys in the team. Craig the other day was wanting to work with a client. They were really wanting that, be very challenging on fees and a few other words I could say, because I know this is a non-expletive podcast. I have to do that on mine as well. Basically, he said, oh, really? I said, do you want to work with them? Well, yeah, I said, no, it's up to you. It's your desk. You run your business. I'm not going to say, yeah, do it. I said, I think you're stupid if you do. I said, I don't think they're looking for a value-led company. All they want to do is get another list of candidates and they're just going to mess you around. Sure enough, they did, but he handled it really well. But I think because he's just come from a much global recruiter in terms of, thousands and thousands of staff, and they're all KPI led and everything else. I said, we only do that if you think we need it. So, and we are putting some numbers in there and we're looking at the conversions, to manage ourselves. I always say it's a stick. It's not a stick. There you go. It's not a stick. I hate that approach. It's a carrot. Like, what are we doing? What activity are we rewarding in ourselves? Don't say, oh, how many calls did you do? Well, I don't care. If you did 3 calls and you got 3 amazing deals, keep going. 100% record. Love it. Don't do 33 calls and only get 1 deal. Just let's work it out. Let's work that sort of stuff. That's on the more the business side of things as well.
No, I love that. Absolutely love it. Right, we're going to fire some quick fire ones at you then.
God.
Is there a quote you like or live by?
Again, I was asked by this business coach the other day. He sort of said, which heroes do you have? Who do you look towards? I said, well, really, I look at people like Johnny Wilkinson, who are, amazing and stuff like that. And I said, no massive quotes on the wall or anything else. I mean, my favorite negative quote is, if you're not riding the wave of change, you're under it. And I was just like that. And they actually did that for one of my birthdays, my old company, Capstan, years ago. They walked into the office and they plastered all the walls with the walls with these motivational quotes. I went, I hate you all. And they were just like, yeah, but you hate these. I went, I know, because they're just facile. They're just like, no. So, I mean, I think the key thing is, the honesty, integrity piece, that could probably stick with me, really.
No, makes perfect sense. Any books or other podcasts that you like and recommend?
I absolutely adore They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan. And he has actually hopefully announced he's going to come to the UK. I will be front row. I will be there. The guy, the swimming pool dude, he's amazing. Every one of your, anyone who's running a business should read it. A lot of your listeners and viewers should definitely read it. It's a great book. And it's about, actually, it's very much that 180 about if your customers, and if you're thinking about this in recruitment terms, and what are their questions they're asking? Now, actually, you could employ that in an interview process very much so that if a CFO is sitting there, if a head of sales is sitting there and recruiting you as a salesperson, they're going to want to know what questions they're going to ask. Think about it. And he goes through it in real detail because he did that to survive, make his swimming pool business survive back in a recession. And I absolutely loved it. He used to do a podcast. It was just the best thing. And then he stopped doing it. And I still to this day regret it because it's my favorite thing to listen to. But he's an amazing dude. So yeah, They Ask You Answer by Marcus Sheridan.
Great recommendation. And best bit of career advice you've had?
just to follow your heart. Sounds really trite, but it's not. It's just, if something's right for you to take it, actually probably the best bit was years ago, I was in South Africa. I was working for Robert Walters at the time. At the time, I was the biggest biller for the company in the world. And a pretty challenging time. Things were getting better, if you like, but I was just, riding the wave. We're in Sun City, the South African consulting company. I want to know your secret. I said, okay, what do you mean? He said, your secret to your success, is it your calls? Is it this? He went off and got me a beer, came back. It was quite nice to get a beer from South African, makes a nice change.
Did you take a picture?
Yeah, I would tell you what, if only I had my phone with me. And he said, right, okay, big hulking guy. He said, right, what's your secret? I went, if a job is right for someone, tell them to take it, right? And I said, and if it's not, tell them not to. And he got so irate. He was just like, what? I said, no, if in the moment of choice, if you can just live to that value, think if you're in the same situation, and it sounds very like, but it's not wishy-washy. Basically, it means you can sleep at night. We've recently separated with one of our clients. I said, look, I don't think it's win-win. I don't think it is. And they're really angry. This HR lady was really angry. She said, well, why? I said, I just don't think it's going to work for us because I've some lingering concerns. Let's not enter into this relationship. And I've done that before. I sleep pretty well at night, because, just the best way to do it, I think.
So big billing, rugby playing, recruitment MD says, follow your heart is the secret to success.
And just be true to yourself.
I love that, mate. That's why I like these podcasts as well, is you get into those real conversations. And do you think that's always been the case for you? Or do you think that has come with time and maturity, or what's your thoughts?
I was exceptionally lucky to pick up Kobe's book back then. Because I was starting, I've been in teaching recruitment and done extremely well there, and then went into financial recruitment, and I was starting to question my values a little bit. I was thinking, because I was seeing people, who I really liked, and they would come into the business and then they push off quite quickly. And I was thinking, they were one of the good guys. And then some of the not so good guys were getting ahead. And I was thinking, how do I reconcile this? And I'm not a religious man, or I'm not anything else. And that I just thought, I need something to help me. And I read through that, and as well as giving you various sales tips as well, as about breaking down your day and doing this. But it was then looking back at yourself and going, right, what are you going to live by if you're going to do this? Because a lot of people come into recruitment and then quickly escape, because they're not. But the fact is, and again, I think it was you said, people 2.6 years, something. I do listen to the podcast. See, regular listener. Thank you. And actually, I said to one of the guys in the office the other day that, and it does relate, don't worry, it's a very long story, but basically I said, right, if someone then comes to headhunt you in 6 months' time and they want to offer you this more money, would you go for it? No. Like, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to do this. I say, okay, the money then goes to this level. It goes to 30 grand. He was like, well, no. I said, really? Okay, all right. 36 grand. It goes to that, doubling of the salary or doing this, Would you go? He said, well, no. I said, I would. I said, I'd leave. But like Thomas Dove said, it's about us trying to look after you guys. And if we can help your careers throughout a period of time, the longer, the better for me. But there might come a time when you leave. But if I've always done the right thing, you might come back. I've had 2 people in the past that worked for me, went off and came back, not just from maternity leave. In fact, 4 people, because I've had 2 go off on maternities and then came back at previous stages. That for me is success. If you like that, you create an environment where people want to work with you, for you, and for themselves as well.
Yeah, the Boomerangs. We like the Boomerangs.
Love it.
And our responsibility is just to make sure they leave better than we found them, right?
Totally.
That's it at its core. Final question then. So we're recording this just pre-Christmas, but this will be going out in the new year. So what are you excited about for 2022?
So I've entered this business accelerator program, and it's actually holding me to account, and it's blooming brilliant. Big shout out to Brian Charter and Beverly Corson, recruitment training lady as well. And I've entered into this, and they said, oh, there's a mini program, there's a major program. I went, yeah, I'm up for that. They're like, really? I said, yeah. And what it's doing, to give you an idea, it holds you to account, look at your numbers, strategy on a page, and various other bits. And what I thought, okay, well, let's see what it's like. It's actually making me look at everything we're doing, processes wise as a business. How do we become more efficient? But then what's also doing is making me go to the guys and say, right, how can I help you get to the next level with your part of the business? And it's making me look at their numbers, but we're doing it together. You know, Carly, my colleague, who's just blooming amazing, but hates sales, is great at recruitment, is helping me get the salary survey up to 1,000. She's helping us look at our Google reviews. She's doing a couple of other projects for me because that is her bag. She's brilliant at it, but it's actually all the different people coming together. You know, Craig sitting down with him, not just doing sales targets, saying, right, when are you going to have a qualitative chat with these guys? Maybe we'll do a live event with those guys. And that's what I would say. So all of the, you know, how does it come back to, you know, next year and things? We've got not big things planned. We're going back to basics. We're cleaning up shop. We're expanding in the US rapidly. But the fact is, before we do that, I don't want to go out there and be an okay treasury recruitment company. I want to be the treasury recruitment company. And that's what we're going to do. And by doing this, we can just literally dominate the market because we're giving so much value. You know, if you want a salary survey, we've got it. If you want a great podcast, bar the current podcast, Executive Career Jump, if you want that. But if you want specific treasury stories, you know, I've spoken to 180 plus treasurers, and I love it. And I've become a better interviewer, funny enough, a better listener. It's quite weird just talking. I keep asking questions, or you ask me, I'm going, I ask the questions here, buddy. But I love it. I just love that. And that, you know, that gets me up every day.
Yeah. Well, we wish you the best of success. I think it's a great tip in terms of, for any other business owners listening, about getting somebody or a program or a group of individuals to hold you accountable.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's a really powerful thing to do. And look, they say success leaves clues. And I think you've shared some of the clues today. I think there's some fantastic learnings in there for anyone listening. So thanks so much for doing so. Thanks for the job search tips as well. For anyone who is currently enjoying this episode and wants to reach out or connect, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
LinkedIn, obviously, I'm on there, Mr. Treasury, and everything else, hopefully. You could also go to treasuryrecruitment.com. I would love you to go to listen to maybe a couple of the episodes and discover the world that is Treasury, treasurycareercorner.com. I love doing the podcast every week. It's a bit like this, just talking to treasurers across the world. And just, we get a buzz from it. You know, I've got people from Porsche, Peloton, Dow Chemicals, you know, global multinationals. And just going back to one of your earlier points, Andrew, you know, other business owners. I, at one stage, wanted to do a podcast years ago, and I was going to do about recruitment. And I thought, God, if I did that, I'll get to about 10 episodes and I'd be like, oh, tired of talking to myself and things. But in actual fact, sharing my client stories, that's been amazing for the business and everything else. And I just love talking to them. And I thought, let's bring that to life. And that's where I think a lot of other people should think about maybe using podcasts as a channel. Some people do YouTube, but you've got to lean into it. You know, I think, what is it? Some crazy number that hardly any get, or 80% don't get to 10 episodes. And you're past 10 as well. I'm past a few more past 10, but you know, you've got to keep doing it. And actually with that repetition, you get much, much better. The PR we get now is insane. You know, I've got some incredible guests coming up on the show. I didn't even dream of getting that. I thought, we'll talk to some treasurers and see how it goes. And that was 3 years ago. So yeah, just keep going, really.
Yeah, no, I highly recommend the podcast journey to people. We're about 55 in, I think. So we're way behind, but still, we've definitely got better at it. And I learned something from each one without being too cheesy. I generally do. So brilliant. I think it's fantastic. So make sure you subscribe to Mike's podcast, subscribe to this one if you haven't already. And don't be afraid to reach out to Mike, because he's a very open collaborator and connector. And just on behalf of the audience, thanks so much for freeing up some time today. It's good to catch up.
Thank you, sir. Can't wait to see you for an overdue beer.
Yeah, very overdue. See you soon. Cheers.
You've been listening to the Career Jump podcast with Andrew MacAskill. For more resources and information, just head over to the Career Jump website at www.execcareerjump.com to supercharge your job search and start making moves. Let's get to work.